Yesterday we had Dominique Olivier from the city talking about the average rent, or rather the residential property tax increase for the city coming in at 4.1%. Some, of course, are higher. We mentioned Ile Bizarre, one of the top in the range. We mentioned a couple that are like downtown Ville-Marie-Borough, which is under about 2%. But we did not talk, because we weren't able to necessarily, about what's going to happen in the demerged cities in Montreal. Whole different kettle of fish as far as they are concerned, and we thought we'll try to understand what's going on. I'm sure the news is not good news. In fact, yesterday, I think when we were talking to Alan D'Souza after that announcement, he actually pointed out Montreal West. We mentioned that to Dominique Olivier as well. BENY MASELLA is the mayor in Montreal West. He's also president of the Association of Suburban Municipalities. BENY, thank you for being back this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Aaron.
How much do we know that you can tell your residents and residents of all the other demerged suburbs how much more they're going to have to pay this time around?
Well, listen, if we just look at the agglomeration increases, the numbers vary from 3% on the low side, but they go all the way up to 22% on the high side. Now, how that translates when they incorporate the local budgets, it's a different story. But I'll look at Montreal West. Montreal West, my bill to the agglomeration increased by 12.2%. Now, when I factor that in with my local budgets, it may come down to 7, 8, 9, or 10, but it's still an ugly, ugly budget. So you talked about a kettle of fish. That kettle of fish stinks.
Okay. I get you're not happy. I certainly sense that. My first question would be, why is there such a wide discrepancy in terms of those rates? Is that an indication of how some municipalities handle things better than others?
I wouldn't even say it's that. I think it's more a question of the composition between residential and non-residential, and they're a reflection of how much the property values have increased in the particular towns. So that varies between places. So I'll look at a place like Montreal East, which is heavily industrial, and industries were hit very hard this year, so their numbers on the industrial side are going up very, very high. Montreal West, where we're almost all residential, or Hampstead, we're all residential, our numbers are going up going high as well. And other places where the numbers were already very high before, like I'll take an example of Westmount, their increases have not been as drastic this year.
Yeah, in fact, if I saw this right, and I know some people say, how is it possible that Westmount, which probably has some of the highest average income, has one of the lowest rates of, of property hikes anywhere?
Exactly. That's exactly right, Aaron. I think when we looked overall, their numbers were like down in the 30% increases, where some of the rest of us were. Montreal West, my residentials have gone up an average of 45%.
What are you hearing from your residents? I'm imagining that your phone started ringing off the hook.
Well, absolutely, Natasha. Well, they were worried, first off, when the increases in the evaluations came out. Right away, we get the same question every time there's a new rule. Does that mean my taxes are going to go up 45%? And I said no, and I explained to them that we still need the same amount of money to run the town. So when your valuations go up, we just lower the rate so that I'm collecting the same amount of money. But with this budget yesterday, I need to collect more money because the amount of money that I have to send to Montreal for agglomeration services, for shared services, that's increased drastically.
And I'm guessing whenever we talk about this, the point always that you make, I guess, is that, you know what, that's fine that they're charging us more, but it would be fine if we were getting more. In fact, you're not getting anything more, you're just paying more.
Absolutely. Montreal West, again, a small town, $800,000 more that I have to send to the agglomeration. I'm not getting an extra car, an extra police car. I'm not getting an extra bus. I'm not getting anything. And I'll go a step further. In Montreal West, we're okay. We get public transportation. But some of my colleagues on the West Island, Baie-d'Urfé, St. Anne de Bellevue, these people aren't getting STM buses running through there. So they're definitely not getting value for the amount of money that they have to submit to for agglomeration expenses.
Mayor, when we spoke to Dominique Olivier from the executive committee yesterday, she used Hampstead as an example, though, that doesn't actually have services within the town limits, and so they have to go into the other cities. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what services she's referring to.
She said to buy a quart of milk to be able to do it.
They have there are no businesses in Hampstead, right? It's an entirely residential community. They have nothing there.
Absolutely. So they're going into Côte Saint-Luc, they're going into NDG, Copenhagen to buy their milk. But I'm not exactly sure what that has to do with what we're paying for buses and metros and police cars.
I think her argument is, well, you're using services of the city, the center city, and therefore that's why you'll have to pay more tax. It's an interesting way to sort of offload, but I'm not sure it makes a whole lot of sense either.
Okay.
I will ask you this, though. You're obviously not happy. I'm sure some of the other mayors you're referring to have even fewer services are pretty upset as well. This is an argument between you and the center city that I can't imagine you can ever win. So what's the point here? How does this play out?
Well, And it was interesting during the agglomeration meeting yesterday, during the council meeting, Madame Olivier, she stood up and she says, "Oh, we see now that we're at the end, that the way we're charging these things based on property values just doesn't hold water anymore. We're at the end of this system." And I said to her after, I said, "Madame Olivier, we've been telling you this for 5 or 6 years already. We've been ready to negotiate. We've been telling you that the system doesn't work," or her predecessors, that the system doesn't work anymore. It's past its best before date. It's time to look at new ways to generate revenue. It's time to look at new ways to share these expenses. And finally, yesterday, she says, "Oh, we're at the end of the system. Thank you very much. We've been singing this song for a while already."
So their argument in the center city is always, well, the province needs to get serious and give us more money. That's pretty obvious. We're deriving 63% of our GDP, our budget, our revenue for the city from property tax. That's the highest in the country from what I understand. Where's the hope in here, Benny, that this is going to change? And how is it going to change if you can't even go to the provincial government on your own? Are you going to convene a group of mayors? How will it work?
Well, that's the first step. We're launching again to the provincial government to let them know and say, "Okay, folks, here's another example now of showing you very clearly that the demerged towns on the island of Montreal are, in effect, they're getting short-shifted. And the reality is the provincial government needs to step in and say, okay, folks, we can't expect Montreal to concede on any points easily. We have to do something to protect the little partners that are the demerged cities. So we have to put on our big boy shoes or big girl shoes and figure out a solution that everybody can live with and erases this inequity between the Montreal Center City and the demerged municipalities."
Like the ongoing situation kind of just feels like a continuous punishment for having demerged, right? So then I wonder, is there talk of remerging?
No, you know what, Natasha, I got to be honest with you. In our town, and I'm sure it's probably the same in most of our towns, people realize that things run so much better when we're doing it rather than being amalgamated into the big city. And I'm sure if you go to some of the municipalities that are boroughs now, that were individual cities before, that didn't pass the test when it came time to demerge, I bet you if you ask them, they said, "Shucks, I really wish we would have been able to demerge," because they're seeing, too, that there's some certain benefits to running a small town. I get that. There's place for the big city, there's place for the small town. But I don't think I've ever heard, and I don't think that cry is going to go up in the demerged towns, "Oh, maybe we made a mistake in demerging." People are happy with the services they're receiving. Okay. They're unhappy with the way the bill is being shifted from the center city to the towns. We just look at the amount in the total Montreal budget, the amount that's getting shifted to the agglomeration, which we're all paying a share of. It used to be like below 40%. It's now like it's in 2022, it was 43.1%, and it'll increase again now for 2023. So we see that there's a shift from Montreal city budget to the agglomeration, where Montreal is getting an 18 to 20% discount because we're paying the other part of it.
Are you buying the fact that the city says it's not our fault, it's the province's fault for not giving us more money, that's why we can't make life easier for you?
No, the reality is we offered them some certain solutions. There's such glaring errors in some of the things that they're saying or that they refuse to acknowledge. So no, I have trouble buying it. I do understand that every penny that we gain, it's a penny that they lose. But let's start looking at other options. Let's start looking at better ways to share it. You were talking before about people from one of the municipalities going into the center city to buy things. So let's look at who else is using the center city. Let's look at why somebody in St. Anne, and I may have made this point in the past, people in St. Anne de Bellevue, Centreville, how often are they going downtown versus somebody from St. Lambert going downtown? St. Lambert is not paying anything for downtown. We are on the island. And people out in St. Anne de Bellevue and Centreville, well, I got news for you. They're not going downtown very often.
That's a pretty good argument.
It is. It's a solid argument, but you kind of wonder how much, despite all the logic and common sense involved in that, is going to change anything.
Well, we can't stop the fight.
Okay.
We can't stop the fight. We have to continue doing it because at one point people have to realize and acknowledge the absurdity of the existing situation, the inequity of the whole situation as we stand right now. People have to acknowledge that one point and say, you know what, we have to fix this. You can't continue like this. It's just not fair. It's not right, and it's not fair.
BENY MASELLA, Mayor of Montreal West, President of the Association of Suburban Municipalities. BENY, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.